Welcome back to the deep dive. We sift through complex sources to give you clear, actionable blueprints. Today, we're tackling data strategy transformation. And there's this persistent misconception, isn't there, that it's all about the tech, the
hmm
cloud migration, the AI models, getting the platform just right.
Exactly. And, that focus on technology, it's often why these huge, expensive projects just fizzle out or fail completely. The reality is you can have the most amazing infrastructure, truly cutting-edge analytics, everything perfect on paper. But if they don't actually change how they do their jobs, all that tech investment delivers zero value. Our sources are really clear on this. Failure usually comes down to human resistance, organizational friction, not the tech itself.
Wow. Okay, so that completely reframes the whole challenge. It's not an engineering problem, fundamentally. It sounds much more like a delicate organizational change management task, like a culture issue wearing a data disguise.
That's a great way to put it. It is a culture issue. We have to accept that every single data initiative, well, it inevitably changes someone's job. It challenges their expertise, the way they've always done things. And maybe most importantly, it can threaten their perceived power. So change management, sustained engagement, that has to be right at the center of any execution plan, not an afterthought.
Okay, so if we're setting aside the servers and the algorithms for a bit today, what's the mission for this deep dive?
Our mission is to lay out that organizational blueprint. How do you actually execute and make it stick? We're going deep into the things that matter over the long haul. Managing that human friction, building trust through smart communication, navigating the inevitable stakeholder politics, and critically, preparing the whole organization for what's next, like AI, decentralized data.
Right. So we're moving beyond the fancy slide decks. We're getting into the messy reality of bringing people along, dealing with totally understandable resistance, and building the kind of persistence you need for real, lasting change. Let's start right there with that core conflict you mentioned, this idea that data transformation asks people to ditch methods that honestly worked pretty well for them personally, even if not for the whole company. Why is letting go of that personal success path so incredibly hard?
Well, it's deeply personal, isn't it? And psychological. Think about it, the spreadsheet they mastered, their gut feel developed over years, that old report only they know how to run. That's the foundation of their career, their reputation, maybe even their job security within the organization. So when you bring in a new data-driven way,
Hmm.
you're not just introducing a tool, you're challenging their expertise, maybe even their identity at work. It forces a whole shift in how they define their value.
That brings a necessary dose of empathy, I think, something we often lose sight of. Instead of just seeing roadblocks, we need to really understand the threat they perceive. Can you give us some concrete examples? What does this look like for different roles?
Sure, let's take a classic one. The veteran sales executive. Highly successful for, say, 20 years. Their success was built on intuition, reading people, their network, that firm handshake. They know the market. Now, suddenly, they're looking at an AI-driven dashboard. Maybe it contradicts their gut feel. Maybe it says pivot away from a long-term client because of a churn score. Their immediate thought is, okay, if the data makes the call, what's my unique contribution now?
Hmm.
Their whole personal brand, built over decades, feels, well, undermined.
That's a massive identity shift. And the danger isn't just resistance, is it? It's potentially losing all that valuable institutional knowledge they hold, just because it wasn't easily plugged into the new system.
Exactly. And the cost of losing that context can be way higher than the cost of the tech transformation itself. Or consider the analyst, the one who's been the data gatekeeper for years. Their value, their indispensability came from being the only one who could wrestle data out of that old complex legacy system. They held the keys. Now you roll out self-service analytics, democratize access, their unique skill, their leverage, it's suddenly threatened. They're not likely to cheerlead a tool that makes their core expertise obsolete, are they?
We often forget these changes create winners and losers internally, and often the losers are the ones who previously controlled information.
Absolutely. Which brings us to middle managers. They're often caught in the crossfire and sometimes overlooked. Historically, many controlled the information flow. They filtered reports up, assigned tasks down based on that filtered view. Data democratization blows that model up. If everyone can access data directly,
Yeah.
instantly, their role as the information bottleneck, the synthesizer kind of evaporates, the fear is real becoming redundant. So understandably, they might resist, even subtly, if it protects their position.
What really strikes me here is your point about them being rational actors responding to perceived threats. We tend to label resistance as bad or Luddite, but you're saying, no, hang on, their fears are often legitimate from their perspective, rooted in self-preservation.
That's the essential reframe for anyone leading this change. They aren't trying to sabotage things out of malice. They're acting rationally to protect their interests, their careers, faced with what feels like a real threat. So the leader's job isn't to just bulldoze through resistance with mandates. It's not about propaganda either. It's about directly addressing those legitimate concerns. It's about creating new paths to success within the data-driven system, making those paths clear, rewarding, recognized. You have to make the future state demonstrably more attractive for them personally than clinging to the past.
So success isn't forcing compliance, it's making the new way the better way for the individual employee.
Precisely. And that takes deep organizational empathy. It takes patience, real patience. And it takes sustained effort over months, maybe years. It's an investment in your people. You definitely don't achieve this with just a flashy kickoff meeting and a company-wide email blast. It needs continuous personal engagement.
Okay, so if we've got potentially hundreds of these rational actors, all with different concerns, different levels of importance, how does a leader possibly manage that? You can't give everyone the same intense level of attention, can you?
No, absolutely not. That's where you have to get strategic about stakeholder management. You start by identifying everyone who's touched by this, from the exec holding the budget down to the person entering data on the front line. And then you use a stakeholder map. It helps you focus your limited time and energy where it'll have the most impact.
Let's break down that mapping process. What are the key dimensions we're looking at?
There are two critical ones. First, influence. How much power do they have to help or hinder the data strategy's success, organizationally speaking? Second, impact. How much does the data strategy actually change their day-to-day work, their world? When you plot stakeholders on these two axes, you get 4 quadrants, and each quadrant needs a very different engagement approach.
Okay, let's walk through those quadrants, starting with the group needing the most hands-on management.
Right. That's the high-influence, high-impact group. These are your key players. They have the clout to make things happen, get resources, provide air cover. And the transformation fundamentally changes how their part of the business runs. You need deep, continuous engagement here. Think of the CFO controls budgets, and their whole finance reporting world is changing. Or the head of sales, their team needs to shift to data-driven selling. These folks need frequent check-ins. They need to be involved in design decisions. You need really tight feedback loops with them.
Got it. What about those with high influence, but the day-to-day changes don't affect them as much?
That's your high-influence, low-impact quadrant. You need their support, their political backing, maybe their budget approval. But they don't need and frankly don't want to be bogged down in the operational weeds. The strategy here is keep satisfied. Think the CEO, maybe the general counsel, perhaps board members not directly impacted. Give them concise executive-level updates. Focus purely on the value being delivered, the strategic alignment. Keep them confident without drowning them in details.
Okay, now for that group you mentioned earlier, the ones who can quietly undermine things through inaction.
Ah, yes, the low-influence, high-impact group. This is a critical one, often underestimated. They don't have much formal power, but the changes hit them hard. This is your frontline staff, operational specialists, maybe some middle managers. Ignoring them because they lack clout. That's basically guaranteeing failure through passive resistance. Slow adoption, minimum effort, quietly going back to the old ways. It all adds up. Engagement here has to be really practical. Good training, ongoing support, directly addressing their "what's in it for me" questions. Often you work through their direct managers, turning those managers into local champions for the change.
Makes sense. And the final quadrant.
The low group. Low influence, low impact. Keep them informed through general company communications. But don't sink significant personalized effort here. Your resources are better spent on the other 3 quadrants.
The healthcare example in the sources was really helpful here. How did they apply this mapping to their clinical analytics project?
Right, that was a good illustration. They were rolling out new dashboards for patient outcomes, resource use. Physicians were clearly high. Their adoption was the project's success, and it changed their workflow significantly. So lots of engagement, feedback sessions, peer champions, custom training, hospital administrators, high influence, low impact. They controlled the budget but didn't use the tools daily. They got monthly, high-level briefings on ROI and key clinical improvements. And the nurses were low influence, high impact. Hugely affected by new charting and scheduling, but little formal power. So the focus there was practical, just-in-time support, tailored training showing how it made their jobs easier, less admin, better patient focus.
That targeted approach seems key for efficiency. Okay, let's shift from mapping who to how to talk to them. You said communication has to be a dialogue, not just a broadcast. How do we make it real and keep it going?
Yeah, communication often fails because it's treated like a campaign. Launch it, run it for 3 months, then it peters out. Effective communication has to be strategic. It has to be sustained consistently throughout the entire transformation journey. And crucially, it absolutely must be bidirectional. A useful way to structure this is thinking about your objectives for each audience.
Yeah.
What do you need them to know, feel, and do?
The no feel do framework.
Right.
Powerful. How does that play out for different groups?
Okay, take your executives. You need them to know that the strategy is delivering real, documented business value, tangible results. You want them to feel confident in the investment, confident in the leadership running it. And you need them to actively sponsor, champion the cause, allocate more resources when needed. Now contrast that with your business users, the folks on the ground. You need them to know exactly how these new tools or processes help them personally. Solve their problems, save them time. You want them to feel enthusiastic, supported, like this change is actually making their work life better. And of course, you need them to adopt the tools, follow the new processes, actually change their behavior.
So, connecting head, heart, and hands. Got it. And this obviously means tailoring the message, which loops back to our stakeholder map.
Exactly. One size fits none. Different groups need different messages through different channels at different frequencies. Execs, they need concise, business-focused updates, maybe quarterly, often in a formal presentation format, ROI, risk reduction, strategic impact. Business users, they need practical, relevant info, maybe monthly. Delivered via internal platforms, targeted emails, team meetings, make it engaging. Technical teams, they need the details continuously. Through the tools they already live in, Slack, Jira, whatever, bombarding any group with the wrong type or frequency of information just guarantees they'll tune out.
That financial services example seemed to have this multi-channel approach really nailed down.
They did. For their big platform migration, they didn't just send one email and hope for the best. Leadership got those quarterly board-style updates, ROI, risk managed. Business unit heads got monthly emails, but tailored. Success stories relevant to their specific area. Sales saw sales wins, ops saw efficiency gains. All employees got a bi-weekly newsletter, tips, celebrations, general updates, kept everyone in the loop. And the tech teams. Daily updates via Slack, GitHub check-ins, very specific, very current. That kind of systematic approach builds consistency, stops rumors, and makes the communication feel relevant to the person receiving it.
You also emphasize that it must be dialogue. How do you genuinely create those channels for feedback to flow back up? Because that upward flow feels like pure gold.
You have to build those channels intentionally. They don't just happen. Things like open office hours with data leaders, real Q&A, honest answers, targeted feedback surveys after a major tool rollout, even anonymous suggestion boxes for more sensitive stuff. But the crucial part is this. When you ask for feedback, you must visibly respond to it. If the same questions keep coming up, address them in the next all-hands update. If feedback points out a real problem with a tool, acknowledge it publicly. Say, we heard you, here's what we're doing about it. That visible responsiveness, that's the single biggest trust builder you have.
And making the message resonate. It's not just facts and figures, is it?
No, definitely not. Facts tell you how much. Stories tell you why it matters. When you celebrate a success, don't just say inventory cost down 15%. Tell the story. Remember Jane in the warehouse, spending 3 hours on manual checks? This new dashboard freed up that time. Here's what she's doing now instead. Stories stick. They create connection, inspire others in a way raw data just can't. And part of that storytelling is honesty. Be open about setbacks. This didn't work as planned. Here's what we learned. That builds far more credibility than pretending everything's always perfect.
Okay, we've mapped stakeholders, open dialogue, but transformation is a marathon, right? Not a sprint. Years, sometimes. How do you keep it going after the initial buzz wears off? Let's start with building capability training and enablement.
Right. Training is so often treated like a checkbox exercise. Run the course, tick the box, done. That guarantees failure. Truly effective enablement has to be way more sophisticated. It needs to be role-based, relevant to their actual job, and available when they need it.
So how do we structure learning beyond that checkbox mentality?
Think in levels. Level 1 is the foundation for everyone. Basic data literacy. What's good data? How do I access it ethically? What's the overall strategy? Level 2 gets role-specific. Analysts learn the new visualization tools. Business users master the self-service features for their domain. Managers learn how to actually lead and coach data-driven teams. That's crucial. And level 3 is for your specialists. Advanced ML techniques, complex architecture, deep dives.
And it's not just the what, but the when and how you mentioned. The delivery matters.
Hugely. You need a mix online for scale, workshops for hands-on practice, good documentation always available. But the real game changer is just-in-time learning. Think short video tutorials, help text embedded right in the tool, searchable guides they can pull up while they're trying to use a new dashboard or figure out that analysis. People learn best when they're actively trying to solve a problem they have right now, not recalling a generic course from 6 months ago.
That retail company example really showed that blend in action.
Yeah, they got it right. A mandatory 2-hour online intro for everyone the basics. Then, a specific 4-hour hands-on workshop just for store managers on their new dashboards. That's level 2. But crucially, they backed it up with continuous support, weekly data tip emails, monthly optional lunch and learns, and help docs built right into the tools. They shifted from just delivering content to actually building sustainable capability.
And measuring success here, it's got to be more than just attendance sheets, right?
Oh, absolutely. Completion rates. That just tells you reach. Did people sit through it?
Yeah.
Assessment scores. Okay, that shows learning. Did they absorb the info? But the metrics that really matter are tool adoption rates. Are they actually using it? That shows behavior change. And ultimately, business outcomes. Is it moving the needle on cost, revenue, efficiency? That's impact. If your training scores are high but adoption is low 6 months later, the training failed to change behavior. Plain and simple.
Makes sense. Shifting gears to celebration. On a long journey, hitting milestones keeps energy up.
Yeah, but it needs to be systematic. Planned from the start. Define before you begin what milestones are actually worth celebrating. Could be technical infrastructure ready, data migrated. Could be adoption targets 50% of X group using the new tool. Could be value thresholds first, $1 million in documented savings, and tailor the celebration to the achievement.
And it shouldn't just be about the data team taking a bow.
No way. Data transformation is a team sport across the organization. You have to recognize the business partners who provided data, the sponsors who stuck their necks out, the early adopters who championed it when it was hard, and always frame the win in terms of business value unlocked, not just we finished the project. That manufacturing company example, when they launched the data lake, it wasn't just yay storage.
Yeah.
It was a town hall explaining how this enables predictive maintenance. First, optimize process. Feature the business leader responsible in a company-wide comms. Hit that $10 million value target. Big celebration event. It creates a powerful shared story of progress.
Connecting the dots to value that keeps people bought in. But the hardest part, maybe, is just persistence. How do you keep momentum when it's year 2, year 3, and the novelty's gone?
Yeah, this is where you fight transformation fatigue. Actively, intentionally. First, refresh your messaging. The core why might stay the same, but find new angles, new stories, new themes. The moment your communication feels predictable, like background noise, people stop listening. Keep it fresh.
And leadership visibility is key here too, isn't it?
Absolutely critical. Visible executive commitment cannot waver. If leaders go silent on the data strategy, the organization reads that as it's not a priority anymore. Attention shifts back to the old ways. Leaders need to keep talking about it, sponsoring it, dedicating time to unblock issues, even when it gets tough. And you can't survive on just promises of future value. You need continuous, incremental value delivery. String together quick wins. Deliver usable stuff constantly. People need to see it working today to stay invested for the long haul.
And what about addressing that fatigue directly? Pushing relentlessly seems like it could backfire.
It absolutely can. Leaders need to acknowledge it honestly. Look, this is demanding. We know to strain. People have a finite capacity for change. If you see signs of burnout, widespread fatigue, you might need to consciously slow the pace. Maybe consolidate the gains you've made before launching the next big thing. Pushing past exhaustion just breeds resistance and kills morale. You lose more than you gain.
That tech company example showed how deliberate that long-term pacing needs to be.
Exactly. They kept momentum for 4 years by consciously shifting their annual focus. Year 1, infrastructure, foundational build, quick wins, very tangible. Year 2, capability building across the business, scaling pilots, broadening the base. Year 3, shifted hard to culture change, embedding analytics and decisions. More abstract, but crucial. Year 4, pivoted to AI exploration, optimization. Looking forward, each year built on the last, kept things feeling fresh, maintained a rhythm. They never stopped, but they changed how they were moving forward.
Yeah, this is where it gets really fascinating, I think, looking ahead. How do organizations actually future-proof their data strategy when the ground is shifting so fast, especially with AI accelerating everything?
Yeah, that convergence of data and AI, that's the #1 architectural shift everyone's grappling with. Machine learning isn't just for niche specialist problems anymore. It's becoming pervasive. Augmenting knowledge work, content creation, customer service, pretty much everything.
Mm-hmm.
So organizations need to move beyond just traditional BI. They need a clear strategy for AI-augmented work. And they need to position themselves realistically based on how fast things are moving in their specific industry.
And this push for AI-driven insights is fueling the need for real-time data, isn't it?
Absolutely. Real-time is fast becoming table stakes in many sectors. Customers expect immediacy. Internal competition demands faster decisions. Things that used to be okay in an overnight batch inventory, fraud checks, personalization, now need instant data flow. That means investing in architectures that can handle that constant stream reliably and cost-effectively without adding massive complexity.
Which often strains those traditional centralized data teams. That leads us to ideas like data mesh. Can you unpack that? What are the trade-offs?
Right. Data mesh is getting a lot of buzz. It's both an organizational and architectural idea. The problem it tries to solve is scale. Centralized data lakes or warehouses often become bottlenecks in large, complex companies. Data mesh flips the model. Instead of data being a central IT asset, it's treated as a product owned and managed by the specific business domain that creates and understands it best. Sales owns the sales data product, marketing owns marketing data, etc. The potential upside is faster value delivery, closer to the business need. But the trade-off is huge. It requires a massive organizational redesign, serious investment in governance, standards, interoperability, and shifting accountability away from central IT. It solves scale, but creates significant organizational change hurdles.
Okay, switching to governance, regulations are getting stricter globally. Privacy is paramount. What are PT's privacy-enhancing technologies? Why are they moving from theory to practice?
PTs are becoming essential. They're a set of tools, mostly cryptographic or analytical, that let you get value from data while minimizing the risk of exposing sensitive, identifiable information. Think of things like homomorphic encryption. Imagine doing calculations on data inside a locked box without ever needing the key to open it. Or differential privacy, which adds statistical noise to obscure individuals. Federated learning trains models locally without centralizing raw data. With GDPR, state laws getting tougher. Organizations handling sensitive data basically have to start understanding and planning for PTs. It's about maintaining analytical capability while ensuring compliance.
That sounds pretty specialized, yet we also hear about the democratization of data science. How do those two trends fit together?
They actually work in tandem. The rise of AutoML, low-code ML platforms, easy-to-use pre-trained models. That is broadening basic ML capabilities out to more business users, analysts. But that doesn't make expert data scientists obsolete, not at all. It frees them up from the more routine, repeatable modeling tasks. Their focus shifts to the really complex, high-value, often proprietary problems, the stuff that drives unique competitive advantage, while the citizen data scientists handle more common use cases.
And underpinning all this analysis is the need for trustworthy data. Tell us about data ops and observability. Why are they so important?
Right, you can't build anything valuable on shaky foundations. Data ops basically applies the discipline of DevOps, automation, collaboration, CI/CD to the world of data pipelines. It's about automated quality checks, monitoring pipeline health, ensuring reliability. Observability is having the instrumentation to really understand what's happening with your data lineage, latency, quality throughout its lifecycle. Investing here is crucial because it builds trust. If people don't trust the data, they won't use it. Data ops and observability are how you build and maintain that trust at scale, avoiding endless hours spent manually fixing data fires.
So with all this constant change, how does an organization build a strategy that lasts without just chasing every new shiny object?
It's about building adaptive capability, not trying to predict the future perfectly. Architecturally, that means choosing flexible foundations. Go for modular, open systems over monolithic proprietary lock-ins. Design for replaceability. Make conscious trade-offs.
Yeah.
Maybe lock into stable infrastructure layers, but keep maximum flexibility in the business logic and analytics layers where change is constant.
And how do you stay disciplined about evaluating all these emerging technologies?
You need a formal technology radar process. Systematically track what's coming over the horizon. Assess its potential impact specifically on your business. Categorize trends. Is this something to adopt now? Put in a trial. Just assess and watch closely. Or put on hold because it's not mature or relevant yet. That financial services example, they had a quarterly radar review. It ensured they weren't caught off guard and had already kicked the tires on new tech before the business suddenly demanded it. And fundamentally, the biggest investment for adaptability. It's continuous learning. Skills decay fast. You need a culture where learning is valued, supported with time and budget. Organizations where people are constantly learning are the ones that adapt best. naturally incorporating new capabilities as they emerge.
This has been incredibly insightful, covering the human side, the operations, the future tech. As we wrap up, let's talk about legacy, because the best strategies, as you said, aren't static plans collecting dust, they're living things.
Absolutely right. The strategies that truly succeed are the ones that evolve. They learn, they adapt. Not just mechanical execution of Plan A. You need formal ways, not just casual chats, to surface signals for adaptation quickly. Changing customer needs, competitor moves, internal roadblocks. You need to know now, not 6 months later at the annual review. And leadership has to genuinely embrace experimentation, carve out resources for it, because today's successful experiment is tomorrow's strategic advantage.
Which brings up a really pointed question for anyone leading strategy, doesn't it?
It really does. Ask yourself, are the processes you're building just tracking project status, checking boxes, monitoring budgets, or are they actively informing the strategy, challenging assumptions, forcing adjustments based on real data, real learnings? Only the second one drives sustainable success.
So if the tech artifacts, the data lakes, the platforms will eventually be replaced anyway. What actually makes up an enduring legacy for a data leader?
It comes down to a few key things that last beyond the tech. 1. Culture change. That's the most durable asset. How people think about data, how they work with it, how expertise is defined, that's sticky. 2. Develop people. Building strong talent pipelines, mentoring successors. Good people sustain the strategy even if leaders change. 3. Build institutions. Don't just rely on heroic individuals or one-off projects. Formalize new ways of working. Governance councils, stewardship roles, communities of practice, embed them in the org structure so they persist. And 4. Document comprehensively. Think of it as leaving letters to your successors. Capture the why behind decisions, the trade-offs, the lessons learned. Help them avoid repeating mistakes and build on your work.
That idea of building institutions to formalize the change feels crucial for making it stick long term, like that CDO example.
Exactly. That CDO wasn't just focused on the next quarter's deliverables. They were thinking years ahead, actively groomed potential successors internally, made sure critical decisions and rationale were documented, formalized governance into the standard org chart, created a solid transition plan. So when they eventually moved on, the transformation barely skipped a beat. The talent, the structure, the knowledge, it was already embedded.
Okay, let's bring this home for our listener. Maybe they're starting a new role, launching a big strategy, or trying to reignite a stalled one. Let's give them that practical 30, 60, 90-day blueprint.
Right. Those first 3 months are critical. They set the tone, build relationships, and establish initial momentum. It signals this time is different.
Okay, days 130. Listen and learn.
Month 1 is purely intake, diagnosis. Understand the current reality of the politics. Meet one-on-one with every key exec. What are their priorities, their anxieties, budget realities? Talk to the tech leaders. What are the real capabilities? The tech debt, team morale.
Right.
And crucially, get out and talk to business unit leaders and frontline folks. How do they actually use data today? Or why don't they? What are their pain points? Dig up past project postmortems, learn from failures, and do an honest, reality-based data maturity assessment. No sugarcoating.
Got it. Days 3160. Define direction.
Month 2 is synthesis. Take all that learning and shape it into a focused strategy. What are the 3 to 5 clear, achievable priorities for the next 12, 18 months? Don't try to boil the ocean. Draft it, then socialize it widely with those stakeholders. Get their fingerprints on it. People support what they help create. Identify 2 or 3 quick wins, high impact, achievable fast. Secure the resources you need, budget, people, vendor contracts, and launch your initial communication campaign. Clearly explain the why and the what.
Okay. Days 6190. Execute and prove.
Month 3 is all about momentum and tangible proof. Launch those quick wins immediately. Show progress. Show this isn't just another planning exercise. Stand up the governance processes. Hold the first council meeting. Give it teeth. Start building the team. Launch the first wave of role-based training. Start working with those folks whose roles are changing. And this is key. Celebrate those early wins publicly. Infrastructure milestone hit. Pilot dashboard launched. Make noise about it. Show undeniable momentum. Establish your key metrics. And do a 90-day review. What worked, what didn't? Refine your approach for the longer journey.
So putting it all together, successful data strategy execution, it really demands this pretty rare mix, technical chops, sure, but also serious political smarts and a deep, genuine focus on the people involved.
Absolutely. The frameworks we talked about, stakeholder mapping, no-field demo, persistence tactics, they give you the structure. But at the end of the day, it's people who transform organizations. Your teams. Success comes from building step by step, learning from missteps, celebrating progress, and really supporting those rational actors through their anxieties, making the new way better for them.
Infrastructure gets old, tools change constantly, but if you succeed in changing the culture and developing your people, that's how you build competitive advantage that can actually last for decades. So here's the final thought for you, the listener. What is the one institution, that one formal process, council, or community you will commit to establishing this month to help ensure your data strategy outlasts your own tenure?